Australia is known for its glittering coastal cities, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, where the skyline shines and the traffic never sleeps. But if you think that's where the real Australia lives, think again. Beyond the city lights and Instagrammable beaches, a quieter story is unfolding. Inland, up in the hills, out in the bush, and tucked away in rainforest valleys are towns that barely make the news. They're not the stars of glossy travel brochures. They're not swarming with tourists or cashed-up property investors. And yet, they thrive, not in flashy ways, but in the ways that matter, through community, sustainability, culture, and resilience. These are Australia's best-kept secrets, not just towns, but living blueprints. They show us what regional life can be when growth is managed thoughtfully, when the community has a say, and when natural beauty is cherished rather than exploited. Today, we're counting down the top 6, not just for their postcard charm, but because they quietly challenge the narrative that success only lives in the cities. So let's begin with a town that's already ahead of the curve. 1. Yakandanda, Victoria. Let's start in the rolling hills of northeast Victoria, in a town of just 1,800 people, where the median house price in 2025 hovers around $650,000. And while the name might be a mouthful, what this town is doing is nothing short of extraordinary. If you're looking for a town that feels like a glimpse into the future, but with heritage buildings and warm sourdough bread, Yakandanda is it. Nestled in Victoria's northeast, part of the Indigo Shire, Yakandanda has become a national standout for its grassroots energy revolution. A local initiative, totally renewable Yakandanda, Untouched, is pushing the town toward 100% renewable power through solar panels, battery systems, and microgrids. They're not relying on grand speeches from Canberra. They're wiring the future themselves. Try isn't just an energy project. It's a philosophy of self-sufficiency. The town's power doesn't just flow from sunlight. It flows from civic pride. Volunteerism is high, community events are buzzing, and there's a rich calendar of arts festivals, including the renowned Yakandanda Folk Festival, which brings thousands together every March. But don't mistake all this positivity for naivete. Yakandanda understands what it's up against: climate instability, rural depopulation, and economic centralization. And yet it's proving that with a bit of grit and a lot of collaboration, small towns can chart their own path. It's not just a good place to live, it's a good place to believe in. 2. Deloraine, Tasmania. Next, we head south to Tasmania, where a riverside town of around 3,000 people is quietly making waves. In 2025, the median house price sits at an accessible $480,000, but Deloraine's real value lies far beyond property figures. Halfway between Launceston and Devonport, hugging the banks of the Meander River, lies Deloraine. And if the name doesn't ring a bell, don't worry. Deloraine is quietly fine with that. Because while other towns chase tourist dollars, Deloraine has built something far rarer: an authentic, creative economy. It's a magnet for artisans, woodturners, painters, cheesemakers, ceramicists, and every year it hosts the Tasmanian Craft Fair, one of the Southern Hemisphere's largest handmade showcases. But this isn't just a weekend artsy vibe. Deloraine's identity is rooted in long-term creative work. Small workshops and family-run studios dot the area, and the town's commitment to preserving traditional skills has attracted both young apprentices and seasoned tree changers. Affordability still holds, but the magic is in the balance. Deloraine is evolving without gentrifying. It's open to newcomers but anchored by its locals. It's vibrant, but not overhyped. And in a state where Hobart and Launceston are starting to price out first home buyers, Deloraine is standing firm as Tasmania's quiet success story: creative, livable, and unspoiled. 3. Bellingen, New South Wales. Now let's move to the lush mid-north coast of New South Wales, where around 3,500 people call the vibrant town of Bellingen home. With median house prices now topping $1 million in 2025, it's clear the secret's getting out. But this town offers something far richer than real estate. Bellingen isn't cheap, but then again, authenticity rarely is. Perched between the Dorrigo Plateau and the Bellinger River on the NS Dalwar mid-north coast, Bellingen is what Byron Bay used to be before it was swallowed by celebrities and construction cranes. A rainforest town with a radical heart. Bellingen isn't just about aesthetics, it's about activism. The town has long resisted overdevelopment. Fast food chains? Not welcome. High-rise apartments? No thanks. Instead, the community has embraced land trusts, co-ops, and small-scale agriculture. There's a weekly market where locals sell organic produce, handmade clothes, zines, and anything else you won't find in a shopping mall. In recent years, Bellingen has been at the forefront of environmental movements. Its residents have played a critical role in protests against logging in nearby native forests. In 2024, a coalition of Bellingen-based activists helped block a major logging proposal in the Kalang headwaters, cementing the town's reputation as a frontline defender of natural heritage. Yes, property prices have soared, but it's not a playground for the rich. If anything, Bellingen's rising costs are a reflection of its deep community value, a rare mix of arts, ecology, and activism in one of the most beautiful valleys in the country. 4. Malden, Victoria. Tucked away in central Victoria, Malden is home to about 1,500 residents, with median house prices in 2025 sitting around $560,000. But what truly sets this town apart isn't its property market. It's the feeling that time slows down the moment you arrive. Walk down Main Street in Malden, and you'll feel like you've time traveled to 1865. This isn't accidental, it's heritage by design. Malden was named Australia's first notable town by the National Trust back in 1966, and it's preserved that status with fierce pride. But don't let the cobblestone charm fool you. Malden is alive. It's full of painters, musicians, writers, and heritage restorers who've swapped city life for golden sunsets and a slower pace. And while it might feel like a film set, it's no museum. The cafes are independent, the galleries are bold, and the calendar is stacked with events from jazz weekends to vintage machinery rallies. Importantly, Malden has managed what few historic towns do: growth without erasure. Through careful planning and strong local advocacy, it's resisted generic development and held on to its character. Meanwhile, proximity to Castlemaine and Daylesford has helped create a kind of cultural corridor in central Victoria, where small towns aren't dying, but thriving. Malden proves that preservation doesn't mean stagnation. It means identity. And in a world where everything's constantly changing, sometimes identity is the most radical thing you can keep. 5. Milla, Queensland. High in Queensland's Atherton Tablelands sits Milla, a tiny town of fewer than 1,000 residents, where the median house price in 2025 is a modest $290,000. But don't let the size or price fool you. This place is rich in natural beauty, climate resilience, and quiet potential. If you've ever seen a waterfall in an Australian tourism ad, odds are it came from Milla. This tiny town in the Atherton Tablelands is surrounded by some of the lushest rainforest in the country. Its waterfall circuit, Milla Falls, Zilly Falls, and Elinja Falls, is Instagram famous. But the town itself remains refreshingly under the radar. And that's a good thing. Because Milla's real value isn't its photogenic scenery, it's its future-proofing. The region's geography, cooler temperatures, high rainfall, fertile volcanic soils, makes it unusually resilient to climate change. While other agricultural zones face water stress and soil degradation, Milla is becoming a testing ground for climate-adapted crops and regenerative farming. Local producers are branching out into macadamias, native bush foods, and sustainable dairying. There's a growing movement of people buying land not just for retirement, but for resilience. If we're thinking seriously about where Australians might live and farm in a hotter future, Milla isn't just a detour, it's a destination. 6. Darby, Western Australia. Far up in Western Australia's remote Kimberley region lies Darby, a town of roughly 3,500 people, where the median house price in 2025 remains an affordable $240,000. Isolated, yes, but also rich in culture, history, and a kind of raw beauty you won't find anywhere else. You don't accidentally end up in Darby. It's not en route to anywhere else, but once you're there, it's unforgettable. Located in the Kimberley, one of the most remote and ecologically significant parts of Australia, Darby is a town steeped in Indigenous knowledge, wild tides, and stories written in stone. The region is home to the world's oldest known cave art, estimated to be over 17,000 years old, and the Mowanjum Festival celebrates this deep cultural heritage every year. But Darby isn't just history, it's evolving. It's a service town supporting regional health, transport, and tourism. And in 2025, it became eligible for a new skilled visa scheme aimed at boosting population in strategic regional hubs across WA. That's drawing in teachers, tradies, healthcare workers, and entrepreneurs looking for more than just a paycheck. Yes, it's isolated, but it's also authentic in a way few places are. Here, stories aren't curated for tourism. They're shared in community. Nature isn't background, it's foreground. And growth isn't measured by cranes and condos, but by connection. Derby isn't for everyone, but if you want to know what ancient and modern Australia looks like side by side, this is the place to start. Let's take a pause here, because this part matters. Every time a hidden gem is named, it becomes a little less hidden. And in today's world where travel videos go viral overnight and remote workers can relocate with the click of a button, discovery can quickly spiral into disruption. We've seen the consequences play out again and again. Byron Bay, once a laid-back surf town, now has an average house price pushing over $2 million. Locals, including essential workers, are being priced out by short-term rentals and second-home investors. In Daylesford, nurses and hospitality staff can't afford to live where they work. And across towns like Margaret River and Noosa, once thriving communities are straining under the weight of tourism, speculation, and infrastructure that simply can't keep up. This isn't just about rising prices. It's about losing the very qualities that made these places special in the first place: affordability, community, culture, and peace. When small towns are seen as blank canvases for lifestyle makeovers, they risk becoming shells of themselves. So while it's exciting to uncover these towns, it's also a responsibility, because preservation doesn't happen by accident. It happens by choice. And sometimes the best way to respect a place is not to change it. So this list isn't an invitation to consume. It's a challenge to preserve. If we want these towns to remain what they are, affordable, grounded, culturally rich, we need to think carefully about how change is managed. That means reining in the unchecked spread of short-term rentals in already stretched housing markets and investing in essential infrastructure before the wave of newcomers arrives. It means protecting natural landscapes from the kind of overdevelopment that turns forests into car parks and farmland into subdivisions. Local councils, often underfunded and overstretched, need proper support to make thoughtful long-term decisions that balance growth with preservation. But above all, we need to listen to the people who already live there, because locals understand the rhythm, needs, and values of their towns better than anyone. Without their voice, any transformation, no matter how well-intentioned, risks missing the point entirely. Preservation isn't passive. It takes action, policy, and respect. For decades, we've had a broken narrative about regional Australia. We've painted it as either struggling or sleepy, as places to escape from or escape to. But what if there's something else entirely? What if they're the testing ground for a different kind of Australia? These places aren't perfect, but they are powerful. They're building futures with fewer resources but more intent. And that might just be the most important lesson of all. Thanks for watching. If you've been to any of these towns or you live in one, tell us what makes it special in the comments. And if you haven't yet, maybe it's time to look beyond the map. Because sometimes, the real Australia isn't found in headlines. It's found in the quiet, stubborn brilliance of towns that refuse to be forgotten.